Welcome back to Dynamic Conveyor. I'm going to show you the easy way to string a belt on one of our DynaCon systems. Now we have two different tail stocks available for you. This is pretty much our standard tail stock. This is what it looks like. Here's our heavy duty tail stock. Looks a little bit different. There's a few extra tools you're going to need to be able to string a belt on this one. But I'm going to show you the easy one first, and then we'll walk you through the installation instructions to how to properly put a belt on our heavy duty one. Now after you have your conveyor fully assembled, everything's ready to go. The last thing you need to do is string a belt on it. So I'm going to show you some pro tips that's going to make your life a lot easier. First of all, when you pull your belt out of the box, you're going to be looking at it carefully, because on one side of the belt, your rods that link all the linkages together have a little head on them. So you want to identify which side of the belt has that little head on it, and it'll make everything wonderful for you. Second thing you're going to want to do is, if the front end of the belt doesn't have a rod through it yet, make sure you run a little rod through here, because that'll, as you thread your belt through, you don't want your parts flopping down and getting jammed up in here. That'll save you all sorts of frustration. Then you grab your cordless tool, set her down. You get this bit supplied with your package with your instructions. You put it on reverse, come up to this side piece, take these two little screws out, take this one out of the middle. You'll notice this one's a bit longer than these, so that one always goes back in here. After you get those removed, this piece will pop right off. And what it's exposing you to is your belt path, and it'll allow you, once you get your belt strung, to thread your belt together, lace it back together. So do the same on the other side. Just makes your life a lot easier. All right, that's one's off. Now I've identified my belt. I'm just doing a mock-up here for you. This side of my belt has the little rod head sticking out. So here's my conveyor. It's fully assembled. I got my drive unit on the upper end. I'm going to start running my belt through the upper belt path all the way up over the motor, let's just say. And my belt, as I turn my motor on, is going to start running my belt back down through the return side, just like this. And you stay up by your controls as your belt is being fed by your motor. And when you see your belt coming out the bottom, like about here, that's when you shut your conveyor off. Now you're ready to lace your belt. Now what we use in our shop are these tiny little side cutters. And we use them to grab a hold of the head of these lacing rods and pop them out of this little pocket. Because there is a little pocket on here, and you have to somehow get that little head of that bolt free, or that lacing rod free, to be able to pop it out of your system. So let's just say I don't have those. If you have a really small flathead screwdriver, this will also work too. So what I want to do is locate where I'm going to lace my belt together. And I'm going to be looking for my tension right in here, so I don't want a whole lot of slack, and I don't want it too tight. So then I'll reach in here with this little screwdriver, gently pop this little lacing rod out. And don't get worried if you damage one of these rods, because you're going to have plenty of them that come with your conveyor. So you see, it took a little prying to get this rod to pull on out of here. So now I got my belt free and clear. Now that's when these little side panels come into play, because you want to make sure you're using these to capture your belt after you lace it. So you would bring your belt up, get it knit together nice, slide your rod back in, just like that. Then you would push on it with your little screwdriver to make sure you poke that head back down in the pocket that it came out of. Just like that. Now it popped right back into that pocket. There's where you put your side pieces back on. So then you notice how these float. And I'm going to show you the components that you saw in here. Is this piece and this little piece. So there are some adjustment holes here. When we put these together at our shop, we build everything with it at the first hole, right? But let's just say you got a little bit of slack in here and you're like, I need to take a little bit of that out. You're either going to have to pull another link out of your belt, relace it, or you can move this. And this especially comes handy when your belt, as you run your machine and it's wearing a little bit, stretching a little bit. It's easy to adjust the tension on your belt. Now our conveyors are designed to run with non-tension on their belts. But if you got a little too much slop in here, you want to take that out some way, shape, or form. So that's what these two locating holes in this black plastic piece will allow you to do. So we're at this point. I'm ready to put my conveyor back together. So all I have to do is make sure my belt, you'll probably be easier to see it from this side. But let me secure this one first. Put my screws back in. Long one goes in here. Come back over to this side. Take your other piece. Put my screws back in. Make sure your drill is set, your ratchet on your drill is set sort of low, because you don't need to over torque these. Just gently run your bolts back into where they came out of. Long one goes in the middle, of course. Here's that other one. There, now you're ready to run your conveyor. Your belt's all laced up, your belt pads are in place, everything's looking good. Turn your conveyor back on, listen to it run, should be running nice and smooth. Everything's cool, you're good to go. Now let me show you some tricks on the larger size, heavy duty end, okay? What we're gonna need is, of course, we're gonna need our drill again. We're gonna need our little screwdriver or our little side cutters if you have them. You're also gonna want a 1/8 T-handle if you have it, or 1/8 L, little, you know, for your set screws that are inside this shaft. And you could possibly need a little ratchet with 5/8 on it. This is a 5/8 socket. Wait a minute, it's 9/16. My bad there. So you'll notice this looks a little bit different. The concept's the same. But what it looks like when it comes to you, you're going to have both your belt paths wrapped up over on one side of your conveyor. So these two pieces are all secured over there. So of course you take those off, put them someplace safe out of the way. And then what I like to do, which seems to be real easy for me, got my drill again. I'm going to take these two out. See, you got a bunch of bolts holding this plate on, but only these two and the set screws holding the shaft are what secure this whole plate to this whole side. So if I take this one out, this one out, all right, let me do this. Let me pop this cap off of here. Just a little protective cap over your shaft. You'll notice that you have two set screws that secure this shaft to this whole side plate and this big bearing area here. So just back them off, 1/8 again, just a 1/8 hex bit. Back them off a little bit so you're out of your way. Now what that allows me to do is pull this whole assembly right off of here. And look, it gives me easy access to my belt paths, right? Very cool. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Just going to take this loose a little bit, loosen these up somewhat. Not too much, just to give me a little bit of play. Now you notice I'm not even going to bother taking the shaft completely out of here. I just want a little bit of slop, give me a little bit of play while I'm stringing my belt. So now I'm going to come back and get my belt ready to string on this thing. Let me use the same section of belt I used on here. I'm just going to unlace it again at any old point. And once again, you'll notice you're going to want to make sure you stick a rod through here and have your T-heads on your belt on this side you just exposed, see? Make sure those heads on this rod are on the side you just exposed. Come on over. belt up. Okay, now my belt's coming out the back here, right? You shut your conveyor off again. You're ready to lace it up at this point in time. So here's your little lacing rod you slid through there. You didn't have to poke it all the way in the pocket. It was just sort of locate everything and keep everything from falling apart. So this is where you put your belt together. Then make sure you countersink this head a little bit. Right like that, pop back into the pocket. Cool, almost done with this. I can now take my side piece here. I've got enough wiggle room from loosening this a little bit on this side that my belt's gonna drop right into that pocket there. I might as well snug this back down while I'm on this side of my conveyor. Then I'm gonna take my other side piece, my other belt pathway. I'm going to just pop this over the belt, just like that. Hang on a second. Wiggle it around a little bit. Get everything sort of in play, sort of lined up. Get my belt path lined up to where it belongs. There. Now it pops right in. One of my little set screws came down a little bit. So now I got it all popped back into place. I can put these bolts back in up here. To secure this. Now the cool thing with this plate, since it's heavy duty, you notice that it has a lot more of an adjustment capability than our standard product, okay? That's where this comes in handy. You'll take your 9/16 ratchet or wrench. You got to loosen up these little bolts here first. There's 4 of them. And that's how you would adjust the tension of your belt on this conveyor. You want to do both sides, and what I generally do, I just put my hands here gently and I just pull on it a little bit. And when I get it so sort of even, looks good, you could tighten these down by hand. What you don't want to do is put a great big wrench on here and start doing this. You just want to get a good overall tension. The other thing you want to do is you want to make sure the distance between here and here is equal to this distance on the opposing side. So it's the same process on either side. Get it to where you need it to be. Tighten these back down. Grab your little 1/8 T-handle. Snug your little set screws back up. Okay. Then you're good to go. And you got a belt strung on your heavy duty side piece. So I hope you learned something from this. I hope it relieves you of a lot of frustration. If you've never done anything one time, sometimes it helps for an old guy to show you how. That's what I was here for today. I hope you learned from this. Give us a call if we can help you. Dynamic Conveyor.